Every single organization, I don't care how big or small, has what you could call digital crown jewels. You know, that critical data, that secret recipe, that customer list. But let's be real, in a world with endless threats, how do you protect what actually matters without trying to do everything at once and just wasting a ton of resources? So, how do we get smart about this? Let's build a clear framework, starting right from the ground up.
You know, it turns out that any super complex, jargon-filled security strategy, it really just boils down to answering three simple, fundamental questions. If you can answer these, you're already taking that first huge step from chaos to control.
So the first question, and honestly, it's the most important one, is what are we actually trying to defend here? And this isn't just about servers and software. No way. It's about figuring out the information and the systems that are absolutely vital to your mission. Think about it. Customer data, financial records, your intellectual property. Those are your digital crown jewels.
Okay, so once you know what you're protecting, you have to ask, how could it get hurt? This is kind of like a burglar casing a house, right? Are the threats coming from the outside, like a hacker trying to break in? Or could they be internal, like an employee who just makes an honest mistake? The point is, the danger can come from pretty much anywhere. And finally, we get to the action plan. Based on what your assets are and the specific threats they face, what are the right defenses to put in place? This is where you pick your tools and your strategies, your locks, your alarms, your procedures, to build a security wall that actually works. This whole structured way of thinking, it's not just a good idea, it actually has a name: IT security management. This is the formal process that takes those three simple questions and turns them into a really powerful, repeatable system for keeping an organization safe.
But here is a super crucial point. IT security is not a one-and-done project. You can't just set it up and forget about it. I mean, think about it. Technology is always evolving, new threats are popping up all the time, so the process of protecting yourself has to be a continuous cycle.
So let's look at the official definition for a second. See those three key goals? You've got confidentiality, which is just about keeping information secret. Then there's integrity, which is making sure that information is accurate and hasn't been tampered with. And finally, availability, making sure you can actually get to it when you need it. That's the core mission right there.
So what's the engine that keeps this whole thing going? Well, it's a model called Plan, Do, Check, Act. It's simple, really. You plan your strategy, you do it, you implement it, you check to see if it's actually working, and then you act on what you've learned to make it even better. It's just a constant loop of improvement. And that plan phase, that's where the real detective work begins.
Okay, let's dive into the heart of that plan phase, risk assessment. This is how we go from that vague, anxious feeling of we might get hacked to a very specific, prioritized list of what we need to worry about first. To start, we have to get really specific about our assets. And look, an asset is anything of value. It's not just a piece of hardware. It could be your customer database, your secret sauce code, or even the online payment system you depend on. Bottom line, if losing it would hurt the business, it's an asset. Next up, we define the threat. A threat is pretty much the who or the what that could cause harm. It might be a person, like a malicious hacker, or it could be an event, like a fire or a flood. It's the potential for something bad to happen. But a threat needs an opening, right? That opening is the vulnerability. It's a weakness, a door left unlocked. A classic example of this is software that hasn't been updated. The flaw in that old software is the vulnerability, and the hacker's threat is just waiting to exploit it. And this brings us to the core formula, the thing you have to remember. A real risk only exists when a specific threat can exploit a vulnerability to harm an asset. You need all those pieces of the puzzle for the danger to be real.
So, to measure risk, we first have to ask about probability. How likely is it that this threat will actually happen? Is it almost certain to happen, or is it a total 1 in a million shot? We need to give this a rating.
But likelihood is only half the story. The other half is the consequence. If this thing actually happens, what's the damage? Are we talking a minor inconvenience, or is it a catastrophic, we're out of business kind of event? This is all about the impact.
And this is where it all comes together beautifully, the risk matrix. We just plot the likelihood on one side and the consequence on the other, and boom. This gives us a clear rating for every single risk, from low to medium, high, and all the way up to extreme. It literally turns that abstract fear into a clear, color-coded, actionable roadmap. So now we have our prioritized list of risks. We know what's really scary and what's, well, not so scary. What's next? Now we have to decide how to respond. And this isn't just a tech decision, it's a full-on business decision.
And it turns out we have 5 main ways to handle a risk. First, you can just accept it. Maybe the cost to fix it is way more than the potential damage. Second, you can avoid the risk completely by just stopping the activity that creates it. Third, you can transfer it, which is exactly what you do when you buy cyber insurance. And finally, the 2 most common ones, you can work to reduce the consequence, which means making an attack less damaging if it happens, or you can reduce the likelihood by adding controls that make it harder for an attack to even succeed in the first place.
And here's the crucial takeaway from all this. Perfect security is a myth. It just doesn't exist. You can never, ever eliminate 100% of risk. The real goal is to manage it, to make intelligent, cost-effective decisions about which risks to tackle and how.
And that brings us full circle, doesn't it? Because the world of threats is always changing. This entire process, from identifying your assets to treating the risks, it's a continuous journey. It's a constant cycle of planning, acting, and improving, forever.
So I'll leave you with a question to take back to your own world. Now that you've got this framework, what is your most critical digital asset, your #1 crown jewel? And what's the single biggest risk it's facing? Because just knowing this process, well, that's the first huge step to actually protecting it.